I'm going to tell you who owns nearly half of the entire US investment market, and it's not who you think. If you think it's Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, you're wrong, because if you combined Elon Musk and Bezos, they would still control less than 1% of the entire market. Hi, I'm Eric Boy. I'm with Inspire Advisors Northwest Group. Here's my question for you. Who owns it? Because someone controls the other 99%, and the answer is way closer to home than you realize. Can you guess? Here's the answer. It's your aunt, your uncle, your parents, your grandparents. I'm not joking. I'm serious. It's the people sitting next to you on church on Sundays. They're the ones who own it. Christians own nearly half of the U.S. investment market. Let that sink in for a second. It's not Wall Street. It's not the billionaires. It's not some secret group like the Illuminati that you've never heard of. It's people just like you. And that raises a much bigger question. How is it even possible? But even more than that, I don't think you understand what that actually means, because this is crazy, like really crazy to think about. Because if it's true, everything, literally everything, should be looking different than what it does. So let's walk through this step by step. First, who owns most of the American investments? It's not the younger generation, it's the older generation, the silent generation, and the baby boomers. These are the people who have had decades to work, to save, and to invest. And let's be honest, they also own a lot of real estate too. But I'm not here to talk about that. Our conversation is going to be about investments. We're going to talk about the market of stocks and bonds and funds, ETFs, mutual funds. So naturally, they control the majority of the wealth. Now, let's ask a second question. Who goes to church the most? It's the same older generation, the silent generation, the baby boomers. So when you take those two realities and you overlay them, you get something most people have never thought about. Now, this isn't just my opinion. This comes from a study done by Kingdom Advisors using data from the Federal Reserve and Gallup. So when you combine who owns the wealth and who goes to church, here's what you get. Christians control an estimated $22.4 trillion in assets, nearly half of the entire U.S. market. And this is where it starts to get a little uncomfortable. If Christians do own that much of the market, why doesn't the market reflect Christian values? Why does it feel like so much of corporate America is moving in the opposite direction? So this is where it gets interesting. It's because most people have no idea what they actually own. They have no idea where their money is invested, but they never really looked under the hood either. They have a 401k or an IRA or maybe a few other accounts, but it was set up once and then forgotten. You know the Ron Popeil saying, set it and forget it. And over time, that money just gets allocated across hundreds, sometimes thousands of companies without any thought to values, alignment, or impact. But it's not just that. There's something else going on here. Most people have never even been shown that they have a real choice. It's like walking into a car dealership and they ask you, do you want a red car or a blue car? And you think, okay, I guess those are my only options. But what about that yellow SUV or that blue truck I saw driving in? Can I see anything else on the lot? If you have never been shown the other options, you start to believe they don't exist. And that's exactly what's happening in investing. It was always framed as, do you want an index fund or do you want a bond fund? Do you want a traditional IRA or do you want a Roth IRA? But no one ever bothers to ask, would you like your investments to align with your values? Because if that option is never presented, it's never even considered. And here's what really brings it home. You see, I sat down with a couple of clients recently, and they're great people, strong values, faith-driven, and they wanted to honor God with their money. But when they actually looked at what they owned, it shocked them. Their portfolios included companies that directly conflicted with everything that they believed in. Now, this wasn't because they didn't care. It's just because no one had ever shown them. Now, once they saw it, they couldn't unsee it. So the real question becomes, what happens when people actually find out? And this is where things start to change. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. That moment when someone realizes, I had no idea, or that's not what I want to support, that's the shift. Because here's the truth. Money is not neutral. It never has been. Every dollar you invest is going somewhere. It's building something. It's supporting someone. It's advancing something. Whether you realize it or not, your portfolio is casting votes every single day. Votes for company, the leadership, the values that your money is tied to. And most people have been voting without even knowing what they're voting for. And this is where it becomes personal. Because if you own an indexed fund, or a mutual fund, or an ETF, there's a very good chance you already own these companies. Not because you chose them, but because they were chosen for you. So when you start to look under the hood, you might find companies like Google being criticized for the type of content they help distribute online, or Apple facing serious questions about what's accessible to children through their platforms, or Amazon being involved in products and policies that might not align with your values. And that's the moment when your eyes open up, and this whole time it was right there in front of you, right in plain sight, but you never really saw it. And now, I hope you can't unsee it. And here's the part most people miss. This isn't something you hear talked about very often. It's almost like it's easier if people don't realize what they actually own, because the reality is Christians already own a massive portion of the market, and companies at the end of the day respond to incentives. They respond to demand. They listen to shareholders. It's not always about conviction. For many of them, it's about calculation. And that means if ownership shifts, everything can shift. Because once you see it, you realize something even bigger. This isn't just a problem. This is an opportunity. And what happens next could change everything. And now imagine this. What if a small percentage of that $22.4 trillion became intentional? What if it was 50%? That's a high, lofty goal. Or what if it was 5%? 5% of $22.4 trillion is over $1 trillion. That's not with a B, that's with a T. Directed on purpose, aligned with values. That's massive. Because money flows drive outcomes. Now, we here at Inspire Advisors Northwest Group, I just want you to know, we're not greedy. We're here to help people align their money with their values so that they don't have to compromise. And we're not greedy. We would like to help transform 0.5% of that 22.4 trillion. That's all we're looking to do, is help people do that. You see, capital goes where it's welcomed, and it leaves where it's not. And companies, they pay attention to that. So when capital starts to move, behavior starts to change. Priorities start to change. Decisions start to change. And we've already seen this happen. Roughly a third of investors say they cared about ESG. Things like environmental impact, social issues, corporate behavior, and stuff like that. And a meaningful portion of their investment dollars have already moved in that direction, which tells you something important. When people care and they're given the opportunity, they act. Crazy concept, right? We've known this already. So this isn't theoretical. This has already happened. And the companies, they've adjusted their messaging. and their branding, and even how they present themselves based on how they think the people will respond. Sometimes the same company will show up differently depending on the audience. Once again, not always about conviction, but about calculations, which means your influence, it already exists. It's just not being used intentionally. But even a small portion of that 22.4 trillion was aligned, everything could shift. Maybe not at once, maybe not everything, but enough to matter. This isn't just about investing, it's about impact. It's about influence. It's about aligning what you believe with what your money is actually doing. And once you see that, you realize you're not powerless in this. You've had influence all along. You just didn't know it. So now I'm going to show you how to use it. So what do you do with this influence? First, understand this. This is not unrealistic. We've already have proof that when people care and they're given an option, they act. Even a shift to 5% of intentional investing can change how businesses operate. And if you've ever reached something like 30%, you're not just influencing the market, you're actually changing the world. I know, that sounds crazy, doesn't it? But we've already seen it with a third of the ESG investors aligning their money with their principles. So it's possible. And the first step is to recognize that now. So what can you actually do? First, learn what you own. Most people don't even know, so start there. If it is a specific index fund or a general 401k, you should have access to what you own and what it's comprised of. So from there, go to my website, ericboyum.com, and scroll down towards the bottom and click on the Inspire Insight. Now you can check on the companies that you own and how they score, according to our proprietary investment scoring system. Now, it might feel a little overwhelming, but don't worry, it is really simple. All you have to do is type in the fund symbol or the symbol of the individual stock, whichever, and it will pull up where their violations are and how much of the portfolio is not aligned with biblical values. It's that simple. Now, if you like this video, click subscribe and keep watching new videos. Now, I'm going to show you what to avoid and what to consider. Second, start investing with intention, not perfection, just intention. So you don't have to change everything. Sometimes it's just, instead of here, let's invest over there. Small changes can create massive impacts. The more people realize that ethical investing is possible, the more we can bring it to shape the future. Because we don't need an economy fueled by greed and self-indulgence. We need one fueled by purpose. And finally, when you're ready to take this seriously, and if you have a larger portfolio or you want to do it the right way, that's where we come in. We build your portfolio for you of hand-selected companies that align with biblical values. Because in retirement, it shouldn't feel like you're compromising. It should feel like stewardship. And that's what we do every single day. We help people align their investments with their faith, their values, and their purpose. Because at the end of the day, it's not just about money. It's about stewardship and obedience. So if this opened your eyes even just a little, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button and then follow along, and I'll continue to show you what to avoid and what to consider and how to invest with intention. And if you're ready to take the next step, head on over to my website, ericboyum.com, and let's have a conversation. But if you're not quite there yet and you just want to learn more, I've got a link in the description down below to my book, Rebellion to Redemption. It's a great book. It was a bestseller. And it's a great place to start. It's available on Amazon, Kindle, and Audible. And it'll help you think through all of this at a much deeper level. So whether you are just learning or if you're ready to take action, let's redeem his money in a world of compromise.